Good morning class 10. Today we will be continuing with the topic what are the negative factors that cause such fearful depletion of the flora and fauna. So in the last video we saw that how in the colonial period due to expansion of railways, agriculture, commercial and scientific forestry and mining activities the forest cover was depleted. Now continuing with the topic, large scale development projects have also contributed significantly to the loss of forest. So what are large scale development projects? Any project undertaken for the purpose of development. So like the making of roads, railways, tracks and dams for generating electricity. These are all for the development of the country and these are all the development projects. These needs huge areas to be made. Now how can we get areas to make dams? By cutting the forest area. Since 1951, over 5,000 square kilometer of forest was cleared for river valley projects. So for making dams and river valley projects, 5,000 square kilometer of forest was cleared since 1959. Clearing of forest is still continuing with projects like the Narmada Sagar project in Madhya Pradesh, which would inundate 40,000 hectares of forest. So for the Narmada Sagar project, 40,000 hectares of the forest has to be cleared. Mining is another important factor behind deforestation. When there is a mine, when we need to mine an area, we need to clear the forest above that area. So mining also leads to deforestation. The Buxa Tiger Reserve in West Bengal is seriously threatened by the ongoing dolomite mining. So the Buxa Tiger Reserve that is located in West Bengal, it is threatened by the ongoing dolomite. Dolomite is a type of limestone. So for dolomite mining, the Buxa Tiger Reserve is being threatened. It has disturbed the natural habitat of many species. The habitat, the place where the species live, it has been disturbed and blocked the migration route of several others, including the great Indian elephants. So the animals or the different kind of species usually migrate from one place to another in search of food or in search of place in different season. So the area or the route has been blocked by the mining. Many foresters and environmentalists hold the view that the greatest degrading factors behind the depletion of forest resources are grazing and fuel wood collection. So many environmentalists believe that the degrading factors or depleting factors of forest resources are the grazing, that how the cattle graze, and fuel wood collection. Though there may be some substance in their argument, it might be true, but the belief is it is not true because the substantial part of the fuel fodder demand is met by lopping rather than by felling entire trees. So usually the demand is met by lopping and not by cutting down the whole trees. Lopping is cutting off branches from the main body of trees. So how do they get fuel or wood? They cut down only the branches of the tree and not the whole forest. So they do not hurt the forest cover of that area. So the belief of the foresters and environmentalists is not considered to be true because the fuel fodder collectors are not cutting down the trees, they are only cutting down the branches, the extra branches for the wood. The forest ecosystems are repositories of some of the country's most valuable forest products, minerals and other resources that meet the demands of the rapidly expanding industrial urban economy. So what do you mean by repositories? Repositories means a place where natural resources found in significant quantities or huge quantities. So forest ecosystem or forest place is such kind of place where huge quantities of natural resource can be found and it is the most valuable forest products. And the most valuable forest products are found in the forest ecosystem only. Minerals and other resources that meet the demands of rapidly expanding industrial urban economy is also found in forest ecosystems. These protected areas, that is the forest ecosystem that is protected, thus mean different things to different people. Some believe that the resources should be taken in one go and for the development of the country. Some believe that no, it should be preserved, the forest should be preserved so that the climate do not change so rapidly and the climate change that is happening in the countries or in the world all around doesn't happen. And therein lies the fertile ground of conflicts. So different people believe different things. Some believe that all the resources should be taken in one go. Some believes that the climate should be preserved, the forest should be preserved for the climate. Now, the Himalayan yew in trouble. The Himalayan yew, Taxus velutina, is a medicinal plant found in various parts of Himachal Pradesh and Arunachal Pradesh. So, Himalayan yew is a medicinal plant that has medicinal quality. It is found in Himachal Pradesh and Arunachal Pradesh. A chemical compound called Taxol is extracted from the bark, needles, twigs and roots of this tree. So this kind of chemical compound, Taxol, is extracted or taken from the bark, needle, twigs and roots of this tree, and it has been successfully used to treat some cancers. The drug is now the biggest selling anti-cancer drug in the world. So Taxol is needed for anti-cancer drugs. The species is under great threat due to overexploitation. Now the species of Himalayan yew is under threat because for making the drug, most of the plants have been cutting down. So we are overexploiting the plants. In the last 1 decade or in the last 10 years, thousands of yew trees have dried up in various parts of Himachal Pradesh and Arunachal Pradesh. So now some of the trees, most of the trees have been cut down and the left out trees are drying up now. Habitat destruction, hunting, poaching, overexploitation, environmental pollution, poisoning and forest fires are factors which have led to the decline in India's biodiversity. In the start of the chapter only we studied what is the definition of biodiversity. So biodiversity means the rich wildlife and cultivated species. The different types of wildlife and cultivated species, that is plants, and how they are interdependent on one another. So India's biodiversity, that is wildlife and the plants, they are being in decline. They are declining due to habitat destruction. Like most of the forests are the house or the place where the many species live. If we cut down the forest, the species have nowhere to go and slowly they start becoming extinct. Hunting, poaching. Poaching also means that we are either killing the animals or we are trapping the animals. So we are also over exploiting the habitats or the areas, the forest areas. Environmental pollution. Due to environmental pollution also the climate is changing, due to which many species find it hard now to survive. Poisoning, forest fires are factors. So forest fires, sometimes it's because of humans, like if we go for camping and we lit a fire and we leave the fire there, the forest will burn. Or sometimes the forest fires are also natural due to the dried twigs or dried leaves. The small fire also burns the whole forest. Sometimes it's natural, sometimes it's because of humans. So it has led to the decline in India's biodiversity. Other important causes of environmental destruction are unequal access, inequitable consumption of resources and differential sharing of responsibility for environmental well-being. So the other causes for the destruction of environment are unequal access. Some people are getting more of the resources, some people are getting less of the resources. Some people have more access to the resources, some have less access. So inequitable consumption of resources. Now consumption also. The rich are getting more resources to consume, the poor are getting less resources to consume. And differential sharing of responsibility. Now there are two types of countries: developed countries and underdeveloped, or sometimes developing countries. Now, how the responsibility should be shared, how the differential sharing of responsibility for environmental well-being. What's happening is the developed countries are saying that the underdeveloped or developing countries should reduce their pollution. As the underdeveloped countries are making more pollution as they are now industrializing, and the machines they are using more resources like coal that produces huge amount of pollution. So the developed countries are asking underdeveloped or developing countries to reduce their pollution. and if they want to reduce their pollution, they have to reduce the industrialization process. The developing countries are saying that the developed countries have industrialized already. From 1800s or 1900s, we saw that the Britain and the Europe and America started to industrialize, and they have created a huge amounts of pollution at that time, due to which climate changed. So the developed countries should take the responsibility, because they have already polluted the whole environment. So the developed wants the underdeveloped or the developing to take responsibility, and the underdeveloped wants the developed to take responsibility. So to protect the environment, someone needs to take the responsibility, and not someone but all the countries need to take responsibility, even the developed and the developing. The developed countries, according to United Nations, have to help developing nations to conserve the environment. That is the responsibility of developed, to help developing conserve the environment, to reduce the pollution, and the developed countries themselves have to reduce the pollution. Overpopulation in third world countries is often cited as the cause of environmental degradation. So what is third world countries? The developing or underdeveloped countries. So usually in underdeveloped countries there is huge population. In India we can see, in African countries the population is very high, Bangladesh, China, the population is very high in third world countries, and that is the cause of environmental degradation according to many economists and many environmentalists. However, an average American consumes 40 times more resources than an average Somalian. Now America is a developed country. America, or we can say USA, is a developed country, and the Somalia is a country of Africa that is very underdeveloped. The Americans are using 40% or 40 times more resources than the Somalian. So they are using more resources, that is, they are ending the resources, and due to them the climate is changing faster. 40 times more resources than an average Somalian. Similarly, the richest 5% of the Indian society probably cause more ecological damage because of the amount they consume than the poorest 25%. So the richest 5% are consuming more resources, and they are creating ecological damage to the ecology or damage to the environment more than the poorest 25%. Why? Because the top 5% are using cars, they are using different types of automobiles, they are using different types of ACs and fridge, due to which the pollution is higher and the climate changes because of that more. And the poorest 25% are consuming less of the things, and they do not have cars, they do not have any automobile, they do not have the AC or fridge, so they are not polluting as much. The former shares minimum responsibilities for environmental well-being. Still, the previous one, or the rich ones, share very less responsibility for environmental well-being, while they should have more responsibility to save the environment. The question is, who is consuming what, from where, and how much? So now the question comes that who is consuming, and what are they consuming, and how are they consuming, how much are they consuming, and how should it be changed so that everyone gets equal amount of resources, so that no one uses the resources or exploits the resources more. If all of the people take the resources only for their needs and do not over exploit the environment for the profits, for the huge profits, then the environment can be saved, because the environment provides for our needs but not our greed. Okay, so if the resources are distributed in such a way that the needs of all of the people are taken care of and the greed is not there, then the resources can be protected, then the non-renewable resources that are resources that can finish, these resources can be protected, as well as the environment can be protected. And the responsibility should be shared by the people who are consuming more or who are affecting the or degrading the environment more. They should start consuming less, or they should start finding the ways to not pollute the environment. The destruction of forest and wildlife is not just a biological issue. It's not just about the environment. The biological loss is strongly correlated with the loss of cultural diversity. So the biological loss or the loss that is happening to the environment or the climate is strongly correlated, is strongly related, is in relation with the loss of cultural diversity. If we are losing the environment, we are also losing our culture. Such losses have increasingly marginalized and impoverished many indigenous and other forest dependent communities who directly depend on various components of the forest and wildlife for food, drink, medicine, culture, spirituality, etc. The losses of forests, the losses of trees, the losses of the areas have increasingly marginalized, treated as insignificant or impoverished. That is, made the community poor. The indigenous people, the people that used to live there, that used to live in that forest area. See what happened during the colonial period when the forests were there were many tribal communities. There were many tribal communities. And Britishers cut it down the forest area, and the tribal communities were thrown out of the forest area. They were not allowed to go inside the forest area. The forest areas were made conserved for the Britishers only. So at that time they were marginalized. They were thrown out of their own land, the land that they had lived for long. So they were treated as not important, insignificant, and they were made poor. The indigenous people and the forest dependent communities who directly depend on various components. They used to live there, they used to live in the forest area, they used to get their medicine, their drink, their food, and the culture was also dependent on the forest only. They believe in the gods of forest. So this all was taken away from them when the forests were destructed, when the wildlife was destructed. Within the poor, women are affected more than men. So within the poor also, who is more marginalized, who is more getting more insignificant? The women. In many societies, women bear the major responsibility of collection of fuel, fodder, water, and other basic subsistence needs. So who collects all these things? The women go out and collect the water, collect the fuel, the fodder, and for the animals, and the other things for the household needs. As these resources are depleted, the drudgery of women increases, and sometimes they have to walk more than 10 kilometers to collect these resources. So the hard menial work, hard unskilled work that women used to do has been increased, as they now have to walk long areas, long routes to collect the water. This causes serious health problems for women and negligence of home and children because of the increased hours of work. Now they have to go for longer hours. Now they have to go out of the house for longer hours to collect the fuel, to collect the food, to collect the water, and that's why the house is neglected, the children are neglected, which often has serious social implications. The children are not as developed now, they are not getting education because of that, because their mothers are going out, they are not being taken care of, their health is degrading. The indirect impact of degradation such as severe drought or deforestation induced floods etc. also hits the poorest the hardest. So the drought and the deforestation induced floods. See, when flood comes, when there is a flood in a state, due to the forest cover, if there is forest, what happens? The water slows down. The soil or the roots of the forest, of the trees, start collecting the water, due to which the force of the water slows down. Now if the forest cover is cleared, the water will go with full flow. So the floods and droughts also affect the poor the most. Poverty in these cases is a direct outcome of environmental destruction. So poverty in the cases of tribal people, or poverty in the cases of the people that used to live in the forest only, the indigenous people of the forest, they are the most affected by the environmental destruction. Therefore, forest and wildlife are vital to the quality of life and environment in the subcontinent. That's why in the subcontinent, that is the Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, here the forest and wildlife is very vital, is very important, because most of the communities, most of the tribal people and the indigenous people depend on the forest and wildlife. It is imperative to adapt to sound forest and wildlife conservation strategies. So it is crucial now to adapt to sound forest and wildlife conservation strategies. We have to start adopting the strategies to conserve the forest and the wildlife. The next topic is conservation of forest and wildlife in India. That how can we conserve the forest and wildlife in India, and what are the steps taken until now. Conservation in the background of rapid decline in wildlife population and forestry has become essential. With the rapid decline in wildlife population and forestry, it has become essential or important to conserve them from hunting or habitat destruction. But why do we need to conserve our forest and wildlife? So why do we need to conserve the forest and wildlife? Conservation preserves the ecological diversity and our life support systems, water, air and soil. So ecological diversity refers to the diversity of or the variation in both terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems. Like the humans, like in start only, we studied that ecological system refers to the complex web in which the humans are connected to the non-living things as well as the living things. If we don't have water, soil or air, or if we don't have plants or animals, the humans as well cannot survive. The humans as well cannot survive as they are interlinked with these things and the plants and animals also. Plants provide them oxygen to live and provides the animals provide the meat, or the whole system is dependent on each other. So in this way, it is very important to conserve or preserve the ecological diversity. It also preserves the genetic diversity of plants and animals for better growth of species and breeding. So we also need to conserve the genes of the plants and animals so that they can grow. For example, in agriculture, we are still dependent on traditional crop varieties. Fisheries too are heavily dependent on the maintenance of aquatic biodiversities. So the fisheries that people maintain is heavily dependent on the biodiversity of the aquatic area. In the 1960s and 1970s, conservationists demanded a national wildlife protection program. So in 1960s and 1970s, what happened? The conservationists, the people who support conservation, demanded that a national wildlife protection program should be started. The Indian Wildlife Protection Act was implemented in 1972. It started in 1972 with various provisions for protecting habitats. So it has had many provisions so that the habitats or the place, the environment in which the animals live should be protected. Because if they do not have a place to live, where will they go? They will just become extinct. An all India list of protected species was also published. That is, all the protected species or all the species that need protection was included in that list. The thrust of program was towards protecting the remaining population of certain endangered species by banning hunting, giving legal protection to their habitats and restricting trade in wildlife. So what was the thrust of the program? What was the main agenda of the program? To protect the remaining population of the endangered species that is going to become extinct. So they wanted to protect that by banning hunting. They banned hunting of those species, those animals, or giving legal protection to their habitats. They gave legal protection to the habitats that those animals or plants lived in. As well as they restricted the trade in wildlife. The trade of animals, they restricted that. Subsequently, central and many state governments established national parks and wildlife sanctuaries, about which you have already studied. National parks and wildlife sanctuaries were made so that the animals can be protected, the plants can be protected. The central government also announced several projects for protecting specific animals which were gravely threatened, including the tiger, the one-horned rhinoceros, the Kashmir stag, or hangul. 3 types of crocodiles: freshwater crocodile, saltwater crocodile, and the gharial, the Asiatic lion, and others. So special programs were organized for these animals. Most recently, the Indian elephant, black buck, and the great Indian bustard and the snow leopard, etc. have been given full or partial legal protection against hunting and trade throughout India. So throughout India, they can't be traded or they can't be hunted down. The conservation projects are now focusing on biodiversity rather than on few of its components. So rather than only protecting a few animals or only protecting a few plants, the conservation projects are focusing on biodiversity to include as many animals as they can, to protect as many animals of plants as they can. There is now a more intensive search for different conservation measures. So different types of conservation measures are being searched. Increasingly, even insects are beginning to find a place in conservation planning. So now they are also including insects. In the notification under Wildlife Act of 1980 and 1986, several hundred butterflies, moths, beetles, and one dragonfly have been added to the list of protected species. So these all are added to the protected species under the Wildlife Act of 1980 and 1986. That is moths, butterflies, and different 100 beetles and all. In 1991, for the first time, plants were also added to the conservation list. And how many plant species? 6 plant species was added in the list. So today we studied that how large-scale development projects are creating a problem for the forest cover. The forest cover have to be cleared for the projects. Then we saw that the mining also is creating or threatening many of the reserves, or like dolomite mining is threatening Buxa Tiger Reserve. It has disturbed the natural habitat of many species, and it has blocked the path of migration for several other species like the great Indian elephant. Many foresters and environmentalists believe that the grazing and food collection is creating a problem for the forest cover. Due to these, the forest cover are getting depleted, but the others believe, many other believes that it is not so. The fuel and fodder does not make the entire trees fell. It only creates lopping of the trees, which is not harmful for the environment. So the grazing and food collection is not harmful for the environment also. The forest ecosystem or repositories, forests are repositories of the many resources. So now habitat destruction, poaching, and these all are creating a problem for the Indian biodiversity. Other important causes are unequal access. Some people are getting the access, some people are getting huge resources, some people are not getting any resource. Some are consuming many resources, some are not getting any resource. Differential sharing of responsibility. Some are very concerned about the environment, that they want to protect the environment. Some other doesn't care about the environment. Many of the people doesn't care about the environment. So the well-being, sharing of responsibility for environmental well-being is different for different people. And it is also different for different countries also. Overpopulation in third world countries is also a problem for environmental degradation according to many, but it is believed that it is not only the third world countries that is creating the pollution. The developed countries are consuming more of the resources and they are creating more of the pollution. Next is the destruction of forest and wildlife is not just a biological issue, it is also a cultural issue, and it is threatening the cultural diversity by eliminating the tribal communities, indigenous people of the forest, as well as it is also a problem for women mostly, because they have to work for longer hours, they have to go to far off places to collect the resources. Then we studied that why the conservation is needed. And if the support system, if the water, air, soil, or if the plants or animals become extinct, the humans will not be able to survive without them. So we saw the programs that was in 1960s and 1970s, that how the Wildlife Protection Act came into being in 1972, and how the national parks and wildlife sanctuaries started to build. Many of the species are protected, and not only animals or insects, now the species of plant is also getting protected. So this was the whole that we studied. There is only 2 topics left. the types of distribution of forest and wildlife resources, and the community and conservation. So after that we will discuss the NCERT questions in the next video. Thank you.